Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. Today we're taking a look at a special side category of Bergmann automatic pistols, and that is embellished, engraved, super fancy Bergmann automatic pistols. We've got a collection of 4 of them here to take a look at. What's interesting is the one here in the front with a lot of the gold embellishment is this interesting one that was not done by the Bergmann factory. What's interesting about it is it was done for a Middle Eastern order, and there's a museum in France that has several other pistols, specifically a Luger and a Mauser and another Bergmann, done with this exact same style of engraving. So we'll touch on that when we take a closer look at it. But then we also have these 3, which are factory engraved Bergmann guns. We have a pair of Bergmann 1896 number 3s, and we have a 1903 Bergmann Mars. So I wanted to take this chance to show you guys how Bergmann did their factory engraving, because boy, it's really impressive. The standard, there was really only one level of engraving. If you wanted a fancy gun from Bergmann, they'd engrave it, but you didn't have different patterns or different levels to choose from. They did primarily a very fine banknote style of engraving with always with a little bit of gold touch on it as well. Some with more than others. If you wanted to have, say, a special inscription, they could do that as well. And we've got an example of an inscribed gun here, as well as one with a little bit of gold and one with just the tiniest hint of gold. So without any further ado, let's bring the camera in close and take a look at these really impressively engraved guns. So we don't know the exact story behind this pistol, but what's really interesting is that there are 4 different pistols in existence with this exact same style of engraving. Like I said, the other 3 are in a museum in France. This one's in private hands in the US. And these were manufactured for some type of Middle Eastern order. The idea was almost certainly trying to convince a particular leader or a military officer to adopt a particular gun. Specifically here, this Bergmann 1910, for adoption by a national military. So not uncommon anywhere in the world to sweeten the deal with some really nice guns for the people who were involved in the decision-making process. Now this gold inlay spells out something here in Arabic. I don't know exactly what that says, but I suspect someone in the comments will probably be able to tell us. There's some more gold across the top strap there, and then decoration on the right side of the gun. So the only bit of lettering is on the back half on the left. Now this pistol is finished exactly like any standard production factory Bergmann 1910, the same type of bluing. What's interesting is they left off every single marking. So there's no serial number, there's no proof mark, there is no manufacturer's marking on this gun, nothing. They knew that this was going to be a special embellished piece, so they made it up custom, left the markings off, and then sent it to a third-party engraver to do the gold inlay work afterwards. Really quite cool. However, it is not the Bergmann factory work, so let's take a look at that next. So this Bergmann Mars is indicative of typical engraving from the Bergmann factory. It does have markings on it, it does have a serial number and such, but then the whole body of the gun is covered with a very fine banknote style engraving. Interestingly, the trigger and the hammer on Bergmann guns are almost always engraved as well, where on most other manufacturers you don't typically find that. Now the top strap here has a little bit of deeper engraving. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. And the little accents of gold are just up on this. That'll make more sense when you see it up close. So check out the detail on that. This just incredibly small, intricate, sort of floral pattern. Remember, this was all done by hand. This gun was manufactured in 1903, 1904, maybe 1905. No machinery involved in this. This was a very skilled engraver employed by the Bergmann factory to do this type of work. So again, I mentioned that the trigger and the hammer are both engraved. That's not common in general. A little bit of engraving on the safety lever as well. And it's not just the sides, it's all the areas of the gun. You can see there's a little wear on the magazine, but the floor plate of the magazine has a little bit of scroll work on it. The bottom of the trigger guard, the front strap, even the bottom surface of the butt and the lanyard loop have a little bit of scroll work on them. The back strap. And then the coolest part of this, I think, is this area right on the top. So this is a deeper style of engraving, and it's got a fruit tree up there. And the fruits on the tree are little tiny specks of gold embellishment. I think that's just really cool. The deeper engraving to me is a really nice accent. You can see there's a little bit of that deeper engraving on the top of the chamber as well. And then the standard, very fine scroll work continues all the way along the top of the barrel. Even on the sides of the front sight. So this is an example with just the smallest bit of gold accent. Let's take a look at one with a little bit more gold. All right, this pistol is complete in its wooden case, so we're going to have all the accessories with it as well. You can see in a case like this, you could buy a cased pistol in standard configuration, or you could buy a cased engraved pistol, embellished pistol. So the cased ones will always come with a couple of cleaning tools. You've got your cleaning rod, screwdriver. There's a little space here in the case for a couple clips with ammunition. This one is missing the lid to this. This would just carry other cleaning supplies, materials, patches, whatever you wanted to have in there. And then a little glass oil bottle. However, the important part here for us today is the pistol. This is an 1896 Model 3, number 3. And you can see here the same incredible intricate depth of engraving. Well, shallow engraving, but the intricate detail there. This has a little bit more gold. You can see it obviously on the side plate of the magazine well there, or the magazine, whatever you would call that, the clip walls. Again, the hammer and trigger are embellished as well, as is the safety. Even the screw head right there in the safety, well, all of the screw heads have a little bit of starburst type work on them. The front strap, the bottom of the trigger guard. The back strap has another small bit of gold and obviously more very fine engraving. The top here, the center of the dust cover has been left smooth, which makes for a nice contrast, with then some scroll work on the edges and another bit of gold right there on top of the chamber. Our proof marks and our caliber markings are still present. They just worked the engraving in around them. A little ring at the end, a little bit more gold right there behind the front sight. There you go, the same type of embellishment on the opposite side of the magazine. So then the bottom of the magazine well has continued engraving. We've got one last little bit of gold on the follower spring retention housing, I suppose you would call it right there. Now this pistol is by all means impressive and a fantastic work of art, but I'll tell you what, the best is the one that we still have remaining. Right, this one is another wood-cased gun. It's got this slight extra fancy bit to it. 1797 to 1897, and there's a really interesting, well, there's a really cool story behind this gun. This thing honestly looks like it came out of the Bergman factory yesterday. The guy who got this gun as a presentation piece set it aside, and I don't think he ever touched it. Almost certainly never fired it. On the top here, printed on the velvet lining, is Bergmann's Industriewerke, Gaggenau, Baden. So from the factory. And let's go ahead and pull this out. By the way, on this one, it's slightly fancier in that the tools are actually plated. This gun has a slightly different base finish to it than a typical engraved Bergman. It's got a really dark, lustrous, almost black finish, kind of like you would see on very early Colts or Stars or Webleys. Black chrome is almost a way to describe it. Absolutely gorgeous. And this one is completely intact. This isn't a reblued gun. This is all original. Now there's an inscription on here, and the story behind this gun is it was actually presented to the owner of a Swiss chocolate factory in Neuchâtel on the anniversary of the factory's 100th year. So it was presented in 1897, and this chocolate factory was first opened in 1797. So clearly the guy who owned it was a friend of Theodore Bergmann's, because here he is presenting them with this fantastically ornate pistol as a gift, an anniversary gift for his factory. So this engraving is actually slightly less complex and detailed than the others. You'll see we still have trigger and hammer, and then we've got these types of floral accents along really every surface of the gun. Here's the gold accent, or the gold highlight, on the right side of the magazine. There's our little Gaggenau Bergmann minor logo. As with the others, we have engraving on the bottom of the trigger guard. We have engraving on the lanyard loop and the butt of the pistol. The back strap. As with the other engraved number 3, the top dust cover area has been left smooth for this cool contrast. And then you've got some work on the edges of it. And then we have a bit more gold right on the top of the chamber. This really is a time capsule of a firearm. This is exactly what this gun would have looked like the day it came out of the Bergman factory engraving shop. And really cool to be able to see it preserved like this still today. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I normally don't do a lot with embellished firearms, but these three, for a couple reasons, well, 4 total, but the Bergman factory engraving was just so really impressive, the craftsmanship that had to go into it, and a little bit subdued. I think they actually look very nice. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you do like this sort of content, please do consider checking out my Patreon page. It's funding from folks like you through that really makes it possible for me to go out and find guns like these in collections and bring them to you guys. So, thanks for watching.